Hi, everybody, and welcome to NA Lit Chat. This is the new adult literature chat where we talk all about the things that help you write and read new adult literature. New adult is that category that's based around characters who are aged between about 18 and 25 or 26. Sometimes the adventures are college-related, and sometimes they're just regular life-related, but it's such an exciting time in people's personal histories. And there's so many good dramas that we can mine for stories. And we'd like to welcome you all tonight. It's Thursday, November 20th. We're in the third week of NaNoWriMo for all of you. We hope you guys are doing well and having a good time. I've seen word counts. I think you guys are about in the 33 to 35,000s. I'm not sure because I'm not participating this year. But we would love to hear how you're all doing with it and what numbers you're coming up with. And how you feel it's going. I'm super excited about tonight's chat because we are talking all about tools. Tools for writing, tools for editing, tools for researching, tools for writing on the go. And we've got two amazing guests here to talk to us about what works and what doesn't and what's worth your time and what isn't. At the end of the night, we'll hopefully give you guys some great suggestions to turn your NaNoWriMo drafts into, a fully edited novel. And there's a lot of tricks and tips that you can use. Some are free, some are paid, but there are just some great programs out there available online that can really take your work to the next level. So without further adu, I would like to introduce our guest tonight. We have Jo Michaels. Hey, Jo, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Amy?
I am awesome. Jo is the author of a middle grade series, a young adult series, and a new adult series, and she's got an awesome book coming out next week with 4 other authors called Fractured Glass. What can you tell us about what you write, Jo?
I can tell you that everything I write has incredibly strong women in it. That pretty much sums me up.
That's a very, very cool thing. And we have S.J. Pajonas on here, and she's been on with us before. We're very excited to have her back. Stephanie, tell us about your books.
Hi, Amy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. As most of you know, I write Japan-inspired new adult science fiction romance. The first book is called Removed, and it's part of the Nogiku series. I'm also a board member at NELA.com, and I'm happy to be here tonight to talk about fun stuff to keep us on track.
So you guys are on tonight because you both are always, first of all, you're not just amazing writers, but you're very busy bloggers. And
I do love to blog, yes.
You both are, and I'm just impressed that you can find time to do both because I'm not such a good blogger. That's why I do this. But you guys are also, when you blog, you don't just blog about your own writing process, you're constantly recommending tricks and tools. Why do you feel it's so important to share those kinds of things with your audiences and readers in general?
Well, for me, I know whenever I was starting out, I didn't know what was up, what was down, and which way I was turning. So as I learned, I thought, wow, I want to share this with other people so they don't end up like me, having to look all over the internet everywhere to try to find something to help them out. So I put it all in my blog. I even have a categorized link list that labels every post, what it's about, what you need to go find. Trying to pay it forward a little bit.
That's awesome.
Pay it forward. I find that if you help others, they will help you. It's really important to be as selfless as possible in this process.
I agree.
Very cool. I am looking at, we've got a little bit of good news coming in from Twitter, so we want to share people's good news tonight.
Great. Let's see it.
We've got Catgirl Studios said her third novel, Woman of God, is making progress with NaNoWriMo, and it sounds like February Grace said she's finished her Nano project already at 60,000 words, and that is awesome.
Woo! Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Good job on that. And she says that her book, Once Upon a Time, is debuting on Wattpad, and it's going to be published by Book Trope. So that is really, really good news.
Very cool.
We've got, who else do we have here? We've got, Michael Simcoe is, I think, making fun of pajamas, so I'm sure he is.
Yes,
good
I
news
know.
that does not involve that. We have Breaking Solver, or I think that this is, I'm not sure who, if she said her novel was accepted by Amazon's Kindle Scout program, so that's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, that's the
awesome.
new thing they've just launched. That's
That's
interesting.
the one. That's the one where they take on unpublished work and then publish it themselves, right?
No, what they do is they take your novel and they put it out there and people vote on it, and whichever one wins gets an Amazon publishing contract. But I went over the fine print and just read the fine print very carefully before jumping in with both feet. Always, with everything, please read the fine print, always.
Yes.
I think that that's a really good tip, and I think that, we didn't have legal tools on tonight's list of things to talk about, but there are, just as there are tools to help you with writing and editing and publishing, there are so many places online where you can go to at least start to get your questions answered, or if there's something in a contract that you don't understand. And I think that's
we should can of worms that. We should can of worms that. We should set that aside for a future podcast, because I bet lots of people would be interested in that.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Who've gotten good advice or bad advice, or who
Oh, just like maybe, I don't know, I think that might be a time to ask a lawyer to come on board and talk to us.
For sure. Absolutely.
That'd be
My
fun.
point is that it would be really fun, and I love that idea, but reading contracts before you sign up to things, even something that seems like fun and benign, is critical, because, there are a lot of discoverability things that could do so much for you, but you want to make sure you're not tying up your rights or limiting your ability to take it wherever you want to go, and that means reading things very carefully. And if you're not good at reading contracts, or if you don't have a lot of experience with that, go find someone who can help you before you sign up for anything where you might be, giving more rights away than you planned.
Right.
Absolutely. Listen to Amy.
Yes, always.
And that's the short speech. The lawyer will come on later. But I feel like when we talk about tools, we're usually talking about really benign things. But that's just, tonight's PSA. You're welcome. But I'm really excited that it got accepted, because I think that Kindle Scout is certainly a good way to get discovered, and there are some great programs out there, and Wattpad is good for discoverability. I think, is it Swoon? Is that the one? It's a romance imprint, and it's the same idea, I think.
Yeah,
where,
it is.
People can get voted and they can get attention, and that's a really good thing.
I think maybe that's where Amazon got their idea.
Ooh. Yeah, I think you're right. It looks like there's more Elster Saga coming, so we really love our Ol and S.T. Bende's writing, and that's really, really exciting news. And we've got Jules Dixon published a holiday novel for her upcoming Triple H series. So I've seen a lot of great new releases this week for holiday novellas. I think if you want to read nothing but sweet Christmas stories between now and December 25th, there are some really good options. Do you guys like to read those, or do you steer clear of the holidays in your books?
I actually have a free short story for Christmas. It's young adult that was fun. It's The Frivolity Fairies. It was just because. It's about 10,000 words long. It was just something to put out there for the kids. It's absolutely free on Amazon. It was fun to write, fun to read, and it's been sitting in the top 10 on children's Christmas stories since it released. So it's a cute little book.
That's very cool. What about you, Steph?
Oh, I was about to say that I usually put at least one or two Japanese holidays in my books. So the first book had like New Year's Eve and talked about Girls' Day, which is right after New Year's in Japan. And then the second book had Tanabata, which is a summer holiday in Japan, which is lots of fun festivals that people go to with lots of fireworks. So I try to fit in a Japanese holiday just to show how different and culturally diverse that whole area of the world is.
That's really fun. And you write about the future, so it's even more fun to think about.
Yeah.
That is awesome. So, Stephanie, I just shared, and I know that you have talked to me a lot about Evernote as being one of the tools that you, as a writer, cannot live without. Tell me why.
Okay, so I did post a video, and EJ put it up on an Lit Chat on the podcast, which is really cool. He took it from me and put the bumpers in the front and the back and published it to YouTube, and I was like, great, syndicated content, that's awesome. But I talked a little bit about Evernote and how I use it as an author. I showed how I have a bunch of different notebooks inside of Evernote. One's for writing a current book that I might be writing, and then ones I set aside for all of the notes I take on self-publishing, or notes that I take about promotional materials. I have a bunch of different notebooks in Evernote, and I save as much as I can to it so that I always know where it is in the future. It comes in very handy when I'm out and about, especially because Evernote, I can install it on my computer. I have it on my computer. I have it on my iPhone and my iPad. So if I'm sitting, with my kids, sitting in line waiting to pick one of them up from school, or they're doing some activities, I can sit off to the side and I can write straight into Evernote, and it saves it to the server. And then when I come home, I can just copy and paste it straight into Scrivener when I'm done. So I like this flexibility of the program.
So you use it for research a lot, but you're also using it for writing itself.
Yes. I figured there were a couple of people, like Starla Hutchin has mentioned several times that she's written almost full books on her phone, and she had an app that she used, and hopefully she can chime in at some point, either via Twitter or Facebook, about which app that was, but she was writing full books on her phone, and I thought that was a great idea. I should do that more often. Often when I'm out, I'm thinking of dialogue, or I'm thinking of the next scene that I want to write. I generally fit those moments, like when I'm in the car, when I'm emptying the dishwasher.
How many ideas you get when you're not sitting by your computer with the dedicated time, isn't it?
Exactly. So I just decided that instead of downloading another app and getting used to another app, I would just use Evernote. I mean, it's an open text window. I can just type straight into it. It saves it to the server, and I can access it from anywhere. I figured if I'm using it for research and I'm copying and pasting from websites into it, I'm saving images into it, I'm saving links, why can't I just write my book into it? And so that's what I started doing for the last 2 books that I've written, is just write chunks in Evernote. I don't write the whole book, but I may finish with a chapter at my computer and then later be out and about and think, well, I can add to it. So I'll open up a new note in Evernote and write down what I'm thinking. When I get home, I copy and paste it in. It's pretty easy.
See, I think that's awesome, and I've used Evernote, but I'm like not organized enough to do that in so many different. I feel like Evernote is like one more place, and sometimes I write them in notes on my phone. The thing that works best for me is to write stuff into Tumblr. But I don't always add that into my books either. But sometimes, you just want to be out and you want to be writing, even if it doesn't make the final cut. Now, Jill,
right. I tried to put stuff in Tumblr once, and then I tried to search for it later, and I couldn't find it. They have a very awful searching utility at Tumblr. Sorry, go ahead.
It's about the tags on Tumblr. So if you're tagging it like Chapter 1, or if you're tagging it with a certain character's name, then you can search for it by adding, the tag in the nav bar. But I agree with you. The search engine is not. It's not as good.
I'll remember bits of dialogue that I've written. I'll remember bits of dialogue I've written, or even a certain word I've used, if it was unique enough to search for on Tumblr, and it will still not come up. I'm surprised it does not index the text. Anyway, go ahead.
No, it doesn't, and I think that's a good reason not to use Tumblr, I like Tumblr because it's visual and because it feels kind of like it's fun in a way that, to me, Evernote doesn't. And Evernote, I probably don't use it in the right way, but it's not as visual for me. But Joe,
It's
you
nice
do
and
the same.
private.
It is nice and private, and that's a
Yes.
good thing. I have private Tumblrs, but then I forget the password, so I'm a mess. Joe, you do the same thing, but you use Windows 365? Do I have that right?
Office 365,
Office
yes.
365. So tell us how that works for you.
Oh. The one thing, now I did actually recommend Evernote whenever it first came out to all authors because I thought it was a great tool. And it still is. The only limitation that I found with it was editing, or if I forgot to copy paste something into Evernote and have it sync with everything. So since then, I've been Word, and I've been waiting and seeing if maybe Scrivener would come out with an app that would sync across everything and me not have to copy and paste and go into a different app and everything. And lo and behold, MS Word, Microsoft came out with Office 365. It's amazing. I can do the same thing as I did with Evernote, but whenever I get home, I can have it open on my computer, and if I need to go into a different part of the house for something, I can take my iPad, open the exact same document, edit it. When I get back to my computer, the changes are there. So that's awesome because it just auto-syncs across everything. The only downside that I found with it, and I wrote a review about it on my blog, but the only downside was on my iPad, it's difficult to highlight a specific section of text because I'm not using a mouse. So when I'm editing, that's my downfall right there. I can back it out and then type something else in, but to highlight like a passage and say, leave a comment in the margin for my author, that becomes difficult because I'm not clicking and selecting and going from there.
Interesting. So it's more about being organized in the way that you save information in order to get that to work effectively for you.
Right, because I'm not having to cross across different platforms. It's just one, and everybody's familiar with Word. I mean, right. There was no learning curve for me, right? And
no.
I refuse to use Word, so I only use Scrivener.
Well, Microsoft Word has a pacing tool. I don't know if anybody's ever used that, but
what tool?
It's a pacing tool, and it's built in. It's in everybody's office. Whenever you can go to options, and it's under proofing. You go with grammar with spelling, and then when correcting grammar in Word, you do this show readability statistics. There's a little checkbox, and then every time you check, like you run a check, it'll tell you what grade level you're writing on, and it'll tell you the pacing. But you have to do it in scenes. So you can actually nail down your novel's pacing. Those people that say, "Oh, I stayed up all night because I couldn't put that book down," that's fast-paced, right? They're excited, they're engaged. It's all about pacing. So Word actually has that tool built right in. So you can't beat that.
Interesting. I had no idea. I'm hearing some reports that we're having audio issues, so we're trying to work those out. Please be patient with us. Kat was trying to figure it out. I'm seeing everybody perfectly on here, but obviously I can't check and see if we are live because it's indicating that we are. So we're going to keep going and hope that you guys in Twitter are going to share the tools that you guys cannot live without when it comes to writing and publishing online. Now, do you guys use any of the tools that help people with word counts, like Write or Die, or any of the tools that encourage you to log your word count even when it's not NaNoWriMo?
I have not. You know what? Just this past couple of weeks when NaNoWriMo started, I wanted to participate, but it's such a bad month for me. The kids are out of school 5 days this month, and there's all these half days. So I eventually did not do it, but I wanted to keep track of my daily word counts. So I just basically set up a Google form. I have a Google form a lot of what we use for cover reveals and stuff that you want people to sign up for. I just made a Google form. I said, enter your word count, give me a note, tell me what you worked on, and then submit, and so it all stores it in a spreadsheet. I don't really know what I'm going to do with all that information, but it's there. And then I use the the project targets in Scrivener and set like a session word count for myself to encourage me to get to a certain word count when I'm sitting down to write. But otherwise, I just write, and I try not to think about the word count. I try to think about finishing a chapter or finishing a scene. That seems to be easiest for me.
I've tried Write or Die, and I thought it was funny. Like, I like the idea, and I know that there are people that swear by it, but it was one of those things that, like, it was more intrusive than anything else to me, and just the way that then you have to, I only did the free version, so I didn't pay for it, but the way that you have to, like, copy and paste and do all those things, it just, there's only so much that I want to keep track of. Like, ideally, I like to put things all in one place and keep them there. So,
right.
But I think that there have been times when I really can't, like, focus it all, and I will try that, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't, but most of the time I find standing up works just as well. But I know that other people have found that some of those, like, more public goal declaration tools are very helpful. I think another tool that's sort of like nebulous but well worth the time is writing sprints and having a group or a few people to do them with. I see people on Facebook doing them all the time. It's not a tool in the way that, like, AutoCrit or Scrivener is, but it's definitely something that can help get your novel done. Do you guys ever do those?
I've never done a writing sprint.
I joined the 5 a.m. Writers Club for a little while.
Oh,
back
really?
in like January. Back in January, I don't know what happened to me. I was on a deadline, and I couldn't get stuff done during the day, so I was just like, I'm just going to get up at 5 a.m. every day, and I'm going to get stuff done before the kids wake up, before my husband wakes up, and it'll be awesome. And it worked for like 2 weeks, and I was like, oh my God, I just want to sleep in. So 5 a.m. Writers Club only worked for me for like 2 weeks, but they have a Twitter handle, they have a hashtag. When you're up at 5 a.m. and you want to sprint with somebody, you can use the hashtag, and people will sprint with you, which is really nice. But otherwise, I think that's really the only thing that I've done. Every now and again, somebody on Facebook will say, I'm sprinting. Does anybody want to join me? And I'll join in if I can. But
I like sprinting, but my problem when I start joining the ones on, like, Facebook or Twitter is that, you know, I go back to check in, and I'm just not, like, quite disciplined enough to jump right back off again. And I would love to say that I would love to say that I can be, and every once in a while it works. But I do find that limiting the time works really well for me. So a lot of times, like, I'll do an hour sprint, but I won't necessarily be doing it with anybody else. I'll just, be like, okay, I'm going to write 1,000 words this hour, and I'm really going to try hard to fit it in 50 minutes, and then I will have some free time and that kind of stuff. But that's not the same as, like, a quote-unquote tool like Write or Die.
right.
Now, do you guys use Scrivener?
Yes.
I don't.
It's the only thing I use.
No.
It's the only thing you use.
It's the only thing I use. I only open Word when people send me Word documents.
Got it. What do you like about Scrivener? I know a lot of people in our audience tonight are big fans of Scrivener. I go back and forth with it.
Well, since it was I started writing novels in 2011, and at the time Scrivener was out and people were using it. I hadn't been hearing a whole lot about it, except for a friend of mine who really loved it and recommended it to me. So I was like, okay, I'll try it out. I don't really like Word, so I'll try something new. I started it up, I did the tutorials, and I just got going on it. It took me a while to really become comfortable with it, but now, like 3 years later, almost 4 years later, it's the only tool I use. I keep all my research in it, I do all of my drafts in it, and I use it to export ebooks when I'm done.
So how do you work with multiple drafts in Scrivener? This is a conundrum that I've heard people talking about, and I've had issues with this myself. How do you make that work? What are your tips for that?
I just, when I'm done with a draft and I export it as a PDF and I read it through on a different device instead of printing it.
Okay.
And then when I come back, I just hit the backup now button. Like I back up the last draft that I did, and I just get in there and get my feet wet. Start with my notes that are on my iPad and start putting them in. And I'll delete scenes and move them around, except I don't really delete. I just move them out of the folders and save them to another folder. And until I'm done, and then, I just back up again and move on. I don't ever like save like a big chunk as a draft. Every time that I'm done with the draft, I export it as a PDF. So if I ever lose anything, I just go back to the PDFs.
Got it. So you're not like...
That's basically it.
Got it. And then I guess if you had the PDF, since Scrivener will auto back up a certain number of files for you, you could maybe find a file that was backed up on that date and keep track of it that way as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can copy and paste from the PDF if I need to. I've never... I've never had this problem. I lost... my last book, I lost a scene. I had no idea like where it went. I checked the trash. I checked a bunch of backups. I was like, what the heck did I do with this scene? It's just gone. I went back to a PDF, copy and pasted it, stuck it back in there. I was like, okay, well, there it is. Not a big deal. I make sure that I PDF every single draft, and I save those, and I save all my backups. So, yeah, and since Scrivener always saves for me, I never worry about it crashing or taking everything with it. I've never lost anything except for that one scene that I must have deleted myself. I have no idea.
Right. When it's a little mistake like that, you're kind of like, I'm not sure I can blame the computer gods. I think I did something.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did something.
So we're getting a little bit of feedback from Twitter where people are saying that Michael Simcoe would like there to be a write or someone else's words die. He thinks that the guilt would work really well for him. He's not so worried about his own words, but somebody else's might be good incentive. Brenda Berry says that she also uses the word count goals and project targets in Scrivener.
Yeah, they're great. You can set a whole project target, and then you can set it by session, and you can tell Scrivener what a session is. Like for me, I told it it's a day, a 24-hour period. So tell me how many words I wrote in a 24-hour period, but you can set it to whatever you want. You can say this session is 6 hours or whatever it may be, and it will keep track of it for you.
That's pretty cool. I use that as well. And February Grace is saying her version of Write or Die is called Write or No More Coffee Today for you. That's pretty funny. I think that would have the opposite effect on me. If I'm not writing, I probably do need more coffee.
Ouch, no coffee. Holy
mackerel. That is some painful punishment. And Alicia, Cat Girl Studio, says that she and her husband call her daily word counts her bacon quotient. And it's kind of a shout out to making the bacon or earning your bacon and earning money. So, and that's a good way to think about it because, you can't always count up dollars on sales on a daily basis to track your progress. Like it's a different metric, right?
Yeah.
Sales versus current work. So that is a good way to do it. How about you, Joe? How do you make sure that you're like staying on track and continuing to move forward? What tools do you use that are helpful for you?
Schedules.
Schedules. Yeah, I noticed a big whiteboard when we were talking earlier today, right?
Yes, ma'am. I'm a scheduling beast. I have every day from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. planned out Monday through Friday.
Wow. So how much time do you spend on the various, how much time do you spend on fiction versus blogging versus marketing? And what tools do you use to keep track of, how much you should be spending or what you should be doing?
I have giant pieces of paper tacked to my wall.
That is a totally valid way to do that.
It's literally every day down to the hour I have my days planned.
Actually, I was just reading about that, and somebody was suggesting for productivity to make your to-do list like a running list, but then to take that and add it to a schedule or to a calendar. Because if you actually say, I need to make some teasers for my next book, but then you actually plug that in on Thursday from 12 to 2, you will actually get it done, as opposed to it just being on your list, and then who knows when you're going to get to it.
Oh, let me just give you an example. Right here in front of me, I have, this is my Monday morning. Monday, 20 to 30 minutes for a blog post with an author interview, 10 minutes to schedule posts across all media for the rest of the day, 20 minutes browsing Twitter and retweeting things I find interesting. So that's my Monday first hour. This is my how to build your Google in an hour a day. I own my search for my name, so it works. Tuesday is 20 to 30 minutes for a blog post, 10 minutes to schedule new posts for the rest of the day, 10 minutes to share interesting things others post on Facebook, 10 minutes to visit and update my Goodreads page if needed. And my entire week is broken down into specific tasks. And then I have a daily thing where I say, okay, if I have no editing job, here's what I'm going to do today. If I do have an editing job, here's what I'm going to do today.
Wow. Yeah. So would you say your time is split equally between editing and writing at this point?
Oh, absolutely.
And which do you like better? I know that's a trick question, but I'm curious.
I can't really choose one, to tell you the truth, because in editing, what I'm doing something that I love very much, and that's teaching and helping other people grow. And I turn out some beautiful writers. I have to say, they learn so much when they're working with me. And then, writing is it has to get out creative side. So they go hand in hand, but I can't really choose one.
Do you feel that your blog posts serve that writing need, or do you have to have a creative project at the same time?
Oh, I have to have a creative project. My blog posts are more like, ooh, I found something interesting, let me share it with everyone else.
Got it. And I'm trying so hard not to talk about I own the Google search for my name and how to do that in an hour a day, because I think that I would spend the next half an hour picking your brain on this.
It's on my blog. So we're going to have to
station. Will you make sure you link everybody to it later
absolutely.
Tonight after we finish this show? Because I think that sounds awesome, and I totally need to do that. So we are going to move along.
Okay.
Tell me, when you have your first draft done, I know, Steph, you are a big fan of editing software. Is this still true for you?
Yeah, but I usually don't use editing software until I'm in the last final stage. So if I have a first draft, if I have a first draft done, I'm like, great, and then I set it aside. I give it some time to sit, and then I come back and I read it, and I'll do a second draft. And then after that, I send it out to my critique partners, who read it and get back to me with a lot of high level edits that they'd want to see, things that they're confused about, etc. I make changes, and then I have another draft. And this goes back and forth a couple of times with my critique partners until I have a really workable draft. And then I ask some alpha readers to read what I've written and give me their feedback. And then usually by the fourth or fifth draft, I feel like things are really good. So I'm getting close to being able to publish. At that point, that's when I go in and I use AutoCrit. So AutoCrit.com is one of my favorite tools. It helps me, like what Joe was saying earlier about Word and how it can help you with pacing. It has a pacing tool to it. AutoCrit has that too. So I plug in a chapter at a time into AutoCrit, and it looks for things that could indicate passive voice. It doesn't actually find passive voice. You have to know what passive voice is, but it will give you indicators as to what it might be. It'll find repetitive words and phrases. It'll find extraneous words, things like that. People overuse the word that all the time. I'm still very surprised at the first time I used AutoCrit, and I seriously, I must have deleted at least 1,000 usages of that I didn't even need. Just then, it'll help you get rid of all of these words that you don't really need in your manuscript. It helps you fine-tune everything. And I use it as a copy editor. So I go in and I'm brutal, with my sentences. I get rid of things I don't need. I tighten them up. I move them around. It's like I have the two parts of my brain, and I use them pretty evenly. Like I use the creative part of my brain to write the story, and I turn that off later, and I use the editing part of my brain to edit the story later. And then I get a proofreader to look over my stuff. Usually it's like 2 or 3 people who have pretty good English and grammar skills, and I've familiarized myself with English grammar and syntax usage. So they're pretty. I think my final drafts are pretty good. So yeah, I go through that autocrit phase, and that takes a while. It's a lot of like nitpicky little edits that I make, and I really love it. I bought like a lifetime subscription to Autocrit, and I became one of their ambassadors, and I like pimp it often to other people because I love it so much, and I've turned several people onto it. So I'm a big fan.
Have you tried Grammarly?
I haven't. It's another tool that's a lot like Autocrit, and a lot of people have told me about the Hemingway tool, which is also a lot like Autocrit. I feel like Autocrit has gotten better. They did a redesign of it recently, and it has a lot more features than it used to have even, and I thought it was pretty bulked up the first time I used it.
Interesting. And how does it differ? Like, how do these things differ? Like, why would you try? Is it a preference, or do they actually have different, not skills, because they're computer programs, but...
Right. I mean, I've heard Grammarly is good, and I haven't used it. I went in and looked at the demos and everything of it, but because I was already familiar with Autocrit and very happy with it, especially since, I edit all of my own work, and I've yet to use an editor, and a lot of people are like, you must use an editor, you're not professional enough if you do, but I've managed to get away with it, and nobody has ever called me on my editing in any of my reviews, so I feel like I must be doing a pretty good job.
Yeah.
So I figure I'm going to stick with what works. If Autocrit for some reason stops working for me at some point, I will try something different, but right now it is working for me, so rather than learn a new tool, I try to stick with the things that are working for me. Just like Evernote, it's like I thought maybe I would try something new at some point, but I upgraded to their premium so that I would have access to offline notes and bigger notes and a couple of other things that they offered. So I was like, okay, I'll stick with what works.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm seeing on Twitter, we've got some people who are recommending Written Kitten. And I remember that from a few months ago. Somebody was recommending, I guess you write a certain amount of words and you can put in the number of words you want, and then you get rewarded with a picture of a kitten or a puppy.
Oh, I'd be into that.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And Michael Simcoe is saying that if they had one where it was Written Dolphin, I'd be all over that. And you are right. So, Michael, if you know the people at Written Kitten and you can get them to do Written Dolphin, I am 100% in favor of that. Although somehow D.A. Boda has decided that would somehow be mean to dolphins. I think as long as it's pictures and not the actual dolphin, we are fine. We've got sorry, Michael Simcoe is also making fun of me because I thought he was trying to be nice with writer other people's words die, but I don't think he was, and I'm not going to try to understand that anymore. So, Michael, you can feel free to explain yourself. And, okay, now this whole feed is about dolphins, and I can't even see you guys anymore. So we're going to keep moving. They love to do this to me.
I'm thinking about any other tools I may know of here.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Well, I'm looking back at our notes from earlier. Tools for editing. We just talked about Autocrit. Tools for promo.
What about you, Joe? What else do you like for, what do you use for editing besides Word?
Yes. Let's hear.
I have a 10-step checklist, and one of those includes an editor, and another one includes a proofreader. I use an editor, even though the Chicago Manual of Style is my Bible. Tia Silverthorne Bach is my goddess. She is my editor.
Awesome.
She's fabulous. I sent her a manuscript. It was iZombie, actually, and she highlighted something and she put, really? I was like, all right. But she does it with love, you know. she
Yeah, for
knows
sure.
that I'm not gonna like lose it over her saying, "Really?" or "Did you have to put this here?" or no, no,
Well,
no, no.
I think
That's
that's critical, right? Like you have to know
yeah.
what everybody's personalities are and how they're going to respond. For you, that works really well. For somebody else, they might like bang their head against the wall with that, and that's great. And I think like whether you use critique partners and alpha and beta readers like you do, Steph, or
Yeah.
a single person who has the experience to provide multiple perspectives on that, you still have to be working with people that
Yeah.
get you.
Yeah, it's like my critique partners are always just like, oh, really? Did you really want to say that? Or I totally don't get this section. You need to change this, or I love this. So, yeah, I get the feedback. It's just from a different source.
Yeah, I'm constantly asking my early readers. I always want to know if things sound like organic to them, if they're believable. That's always my big thing. And I also want to know, I always want to know what they want more of and what they want less of. Because I don't know about you guys, but I'll have all the best intentions with like even chapters and whatnot with my books. But all of a sudden I'll realize like I got really into a scene and it's 4,000 words. And it may or may not be more or less important than the one that's 1,500 words, but for whatever reason, inspiration struck, and sometimes I think things go on too long, and sometimes they don't go on long enough. So I've actually used Grammarly, and I like it a lot for making my writing tighter, but it just doesn't replace those opinions,
Right.
Absolutely.
Have you read Renaria by any chance by J.L. Wilson?
No, what is it?
That's a fantastic little fantasy book. We just edited that. She just released it, so new release. I'm actually doing a giveaway on the Indie Books Gone Wild blog. I think we have like maybe 6 hours left.
So run over there, Joe. You're gonna have to tweet that out too.
Okay. But
Awesome.
yeah, that was kind of a big project because what we did was I made her go in and bloat it, and then we went in and cut it down. So there were some things that needed to be fleshed out a little bit more, and then we were able to see where we could cut it out and like trim it down and make it just more reader friendly. And it's an amazing little book. You guys would really like that. I think you just check that one out.
Very cool. Awesome. So yes, Stephanie, thank you. You are going into the tools for publishing.
Tools for promo.
Oh, tools for promo.
Do you want to talk
tools for
about
publishing.
Do you want to talk about tools for publishing?
Yeah, let's do that. I know you guys said that you you publish on Scrivener, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
You use
I published straight from Scrivener. It's funny because there was a big Facebook discussion that just went on about ebook formatting, and Brenda Berry was part of it, and a couple other people. I said that I just published straight from Scrivener because I don't really do a lot of fancy ebook formatting. I try to keep it pretty simple. I do like to make sure that it looks nice, but I don't do anything too fancy. But there are some really wonderful tools out there for making your books look fancy if that is totally your thing. And I totally get that. So one of the ones that was mentioned besides Scrivener was Vellum. A couple of people really like Vellum. It's Vellum. I think it might be for Mac only, and they have a very interesting like payment like schedule type thing. You have to buy it, and then it's like a subscription almost. Like you can pay per book to format it, or you can buy it like 100 books or something, and then you can buy an unlimited version of Vellum, and you can make as many books as you want. So I thought that was interesting. They have a lot of really cool features that make it very interesting, make it very pretty for formatting your ebooks.
That's cool. I hear a lot of Judo as well. Jutoh.
Judo. Yeah. Jutoh.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, a lot of people use that. I haven't used Judo. And then you can use Sigil, Sigil, for editing EPUBs. If you have an EPUB, it only does EPUBs. It doesn't do Mobies. What other ones do I know of? Those are the only ones I can think of off the top of my head. Do you use something, Joe, that's different?
I use Word. No extra fees.
Yeah. Yeah.
It works for me. My print books, though, I use InDesign.
What's the converter for
none.
Word that you like?
There is none. I just upload the document, and it comes out perfectly.
Oh, I see. I
Yeah.
see. You just upload a doc straight to Amazon or straight to the other vendors, and it does it fine.
Yep.
Okay.
I didn't realize you could upload a Word doc to Amazon.
You
can. You can. Some people have problems with it because they don't know enough to turn off the formatting that Word does sometimes.
Smashword Style Guide. That was my Bible when I was learning. Oh, yes, and it's free.
Right.
Love that, yeah.
Right.
See, and I've had a heck of a time with that thing.
I had problems with it too, so that was why I just went with the ebooks from Scrivener.
Yeah, I know that Kat uses InDesign for her formatting, and that definitely gives you the ability to make really pretty ebook and print copies. I know that there's constantly, I always see people going back and forth about images and whatnot in ebooks, and whether that means like fancy chapter headings or actually.
I try to cut those
images. Out. Yeah.
Yeah, I try to cut those. Yeah, like the more images you add to an ebook file, the bigger the file gets, and Amazon makes you pay per
delivery.
Yeah, per delivery. So and depending how big your file is, they're going to take more out of your cut. So it's best to keep it as small as possible.
Or they make you charge more, right?
Or yeah.
We're actually using Cassie Roop to format Fractured Glass, the upcoming, the one that's releasing next Friday, because we wanted it to be just a little bit magical. So I told her, let's keep the images really tiny, and let's do something like a 72 DPI, just little icons and things to break things up and just make it just a little bit pretty. And she was like, okay, I can do that. So she's a wizard. I love her work. And we decided to go with her because I don't make pretty ebooks. I make pretty print books. That's what I went to college for. So
that's cool. I mean, I think that those are definitely different skills, and I think when it comes to ebook publishing, you want something that's legible and has really good page breaks and that kind of thing. I have a multiple point of view ebook coming up, and so I need to have little tweaks so that you know what you're reading, but you don't want it to be too much because you don't want it to be heavy or distracting. So I'm trying to sort that out when it comes to publishing. But, I think some people don't care at all. Some people are like, I can figure this out or I'm not going to read your... I better be able to figure it out without text changes or I'm not going to read your book. And other people are like, well, I didn't need them, but I liked them. So
right.
That's a consideration. So there's a lot of tools for ebook publishing. The other one that I always mention is if you really are clueless, Draft to Digital is your friend.
I love D2D. I use them now for everything. I use them now to deliver to Barnes & Noble because using Nook Press is such a nightmare. So I just decided to use D2D because they actually have customer service. I'm willing to take a cut off of my so that I can have. I'm a big fan.
They actually have really great customer service. Just a little shout out to them. I'm constantly impressed with the people that respond to me even without me asking. And actually, we did a box set, and they actually it kept getting rejected for the tiniest thing out of 12 books. And they went in and they figured out what it was for us, and I was so grateful because the designer was being great, and we were all trying to figure it out, but they had more information and they shared it, and I thought that was really great. But they'll take your Word doc and they'll export it for you, and you can test it out and see the samples before you let it go on whatever platform you want to use them to sell it on, and they do take a cut. But there's also the benefit of you only have to upload once, and any changes you make go live everywhere all at once. So if you're looking to, save a little time in exchange for money, it can work for me. I know that when I first published my first book, I spent a lot of money on formatting in a few weird ways, just because there was a learning curve, and I had to I had two drafts that got a little jumbled, and I had to straighten that out. And the money that I spent, like, it would have been so worth the 10% that I would have been sharing with Draft to Digital. Like, it still would have been less. And, you know, you have a little bit more flexibility when you're doing it yourself. And I have learned from using that tool a little bit since then. So that was helpful for me. Now, what about the other stuff? What about the promo and the scheduling? And I guess those are kind of different things, right? Because scheduling could be Buffer or Hootsuite or your blog, and then promo is your creative thing. So what are the other tools that you guys use in general to get the word out about your books? What is super helpful?
I guess I cheat because I use Buffer and Hootsuite because I don't pay for it. So anything that's free, I'm all over it. But they only give you a limited number of, you know, broadcasts per day. So Buffer gives you, 4 or 5, and then Hootsuite gives you about the same amount. So if you stagger them, you get 8 to 10 rather than being limited to, you know. But I don't like to pay for things. So anything that's free, I'm all over it.
What about you, Steph? What do you use for scheduling and that kind of thing?
Well, I mean, instead of writing blog posts every day, which I sometimes do, I try to set aside a block of time on the weekend to write up a bunch of blog posts for the week, and then I'll schedule them so that they'll go out each day. So it sort of looks like I'm blogging every day, even though I'm cheating and I'm scheduling them all ahead of time. I also take that time to schedule a bunch of posts to my Facebook page. So the only thing I don't like about scheduling to my Facebook page is it doesn't tweet it when it goes live. That's probably like the only drawback. So I just schedule within the apps as much as possible because, like Joe said, that is also free.
Yeah.
And I don't have to pay for it, which is awesome. The other thing that I use that I like a lot, and I just started using it recently, is a WordPress plugin for my blog called Tweetly. You install it and you can schedule it so that it will tweet your old blog posts like every so often. I have it scheduled so that it will tweet my old blog posts every 4 hours. You can go in and exclude blog posts you don't want it to tweet. But that's been really nice, actually, to see my old blog posts come back up on Twitter and people do like see them and click on them, which is a great exposure also for my blog. So that's also something that is totally automated that I don't even have to do anymore.
Oh, that's nice.
That is nice. Tweetly, I really like it. It took a while for me to like test it out and figure out the way I wanted those tweets to be formatted.
I didn't know about it.
But now it works great, and it's hooked up to Bitly, so I can see if people are clicking on the links and.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's great.
That's pretty cool. What about for promo design stuff? I know you do some really great teasers and stuff.
That just comes down to like my subject matter. It's like I don't do typical contemporary romance, so I choose a lot of images that are different for my genre, and then I used to use Photoshop. I was a 15-year veteran of Photoshop, and I just couldn't justify paying for it anymore. Especially, I just didn't like Adobe. I didn't like their practices. So I switched to Pixelmator on my Mac, which I like a lot. It's a very, very close to Photoshop. I mean, it uses almost all the same shortcuts, which is really important for me because, I mean, after using Photoshop for 15 years, like I know like each one of the keys and combinations on my keyboard that would bring up all the tools, right? Like, oh my God,
yeah.
like, Command Spacebar, it better bring up that zoom tool or else I'm crying. So I liked Pixelmator because it had used all the same shortcuts as Photoshop. That's what I use. I try to get people to use it, but you know what? If you've never used Photoshop, if you've never used these programs before, then you're going to be pretty lost. So I recommend for people who want to make teasers and whatnot, there's a couple of online tools that are really great. Canva is one of them. It's a free online editing tool. A lot of people love it.
I'm actually like one of the Canva ambassadors ambassadors like you for AutoCrit. They like wrote me. They wrote me a few months ago, and they're like, "You are a power user. You're like in our top 200 users of Canva." I was like, "I'm a writer, so that's probably really bad."
Yeah.
But thank you. And so I've gotten to test drive a couple new products for them, and it's really like you have to spend a couple minutes, but like you can import any picture and any logo and sort of mix them together, and they've got like layouts and stuff for you. So if you really feel like you're a design idiot, you can just kind of say, "Oh, look, they've already got this, and it looks pretty with my picture, so I'm just going to fill my words and let it go." And it's kind of amazing how well it works.
Yeah, my crit partner just designed her last cover image in it, and it looked fantastic. It was like, wow, Canva's great. Like, I definitely recommend it. A lot of people like PicMonkey as well. So
yeah, I've used that.
Those are the two I recommend to everybody who can't use Photoshop or Pixelmator. Like, if you're gonna try something, try those two.
And what about you, Joe? I know you said you have a degree in graphics, so you have a lot of experience there as well. But what's in your visual stuff?
I use the Adobe Suite, CS5.
You do.
Yeah, that's what I learned in school. It's really easy for me to use. So, you know.
I totally understand that.
Yeah, especially InDesign for laying out books. There's nothing that compares because you can put the little images in there. You know, you can control the leading and the spacing and the tracking and the kerning, and it's beautiful. You come out on the other side with the most gorgeous print book on the planet.
Yeah, it makes a big difference for sure.
I've made my paperbacks in Scrivener, believe it or not. I managed to get it to do what I wanted it to do. I've managed to whip that program to get it to do the things I want it to do. I should really write a book or something. Actually, there's a really great one out there. You don't even need that. But
for people that use Word, actually.
Oh, you know what? Scrivener for Dummies. It's a great book, and it's written by a woman who is also a fiction writer, and her website is full of great stuff for Scrivener as well. So look it up. It's Scrivener for Dummies. I have it. I highly recommend it.
I actually took her class. Her name is Gwen Hernandez. She's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
And it was like
thank you.
It was like the best $25 I've ever spent. It was one of those classes. It might have been. It was under $50. I don't remember how much it actually was, but I just remember feeling like that plus the price for Scrivener, which is pretty low. I mean, it's not free, but it's close for as powerful of a program as it is. And I felt like I came out so far ahead because I had been a little lost in Scrivener, and after her course, I was like, okay, I got this. This is awesome. But then I ran into my own limitations that had nothing to do with what I learned from her. So, believe it or not, I think we've gone very quickly through a lot of different tools, and hopefully it's been useful. Our main goal here is to make you guys understand that when it comes from going from first, second, or third draft, or whatever you've put together in Nano, to something that you either want to query or self-publish, there are a lot of places online you can go for help. And of course, nothing will ever replace actual other eyes on your work because, you know, computer programs aside, getting feedback from people you trust who have your best interests at heart, and that's an important point to remember, is really the best tool for helping you make your manuscript as strong as it can be. So I want to thank everybody in Twitter and our NA Lit Chat staff who've been chatting with you guys and helping us in here. We have Lindsay Lewis and Alicia Cat Vansel and St. Bende. Thank you guys so much for being here tonight. I haven't seen Hey Chris Fox, so I don't know if we got him here tonight. EJ, our fearless leader, EJ Wesley, is not here tonight, but he will be back. We do not have a live audio broadcast next week, so we hope you guys all have a fantastic Thanksgiving. We actually don't have a Twitter chat either next week, but if anybody wants to post pictures of your turkeys and tag them with NA Lit Chat, we will be happy to look at them. Joe Michael, thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Miss Amy.
So excited about your Fractured Glass series with your 4 other writers. It's not a series, it's a novel with the 5 of you guys writing, so I'm excited to check that out next week. And Steph Jonas, thank you so much. You've been so informative as usual. We love having you on.
Oh, thank you. I feel like I dominated this one. I apologize to the other people here on board.
No, we started brainstorming this idea, and it had your name attached to it from the start, because you're always so generous with sharing the things that you discover that work for you, and that's what our community is based on. So please never apologize. You know your stuff, and we're so grateful you're willing to share the knowledge with us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
So this is Amy Evans. We are signing off this week for NA Lit Chat. Have a happy, healthy, safe Thanksgiving. We will see you the first week in December for dream planning with Janet Wallace. We are going to talk to Janet Wallace about how to take your dreams and start really turning them into realities, what you need to do to line that up from a marketing standpoint, from a work standpoint, and, kind of from a heart standpoint. So that'll make a lot more sense when we get her on. It's going to be a great broadcast. We will see you guys, or hear you guys, or talk to you guys, or whatever we're going to do back the first weekend of December. Have a good one, everyone. Good night.